Hello and welcome to Conversations with Cacao. I am here today with Gabrielle Martirana from Cacao Wisdom, and we are here to come together in good conversation. So before we even start, let's allow ourselves to really come into present communion with this moment. Allowing our breath to begin to fill our bodies. Taking a deep breath in. Beginning to exhale and soften all around us, allowing the hips to soften back, our back body to begin to melt, our shoulders to begin to soften, breathing in more softness into our jaw, into our throat, releasing out, maybe even on a sigh and exhale of sound. And deepening even more consciously into this moment, releasing the external factors that may be binding us in the past or the future, and just maybe like seeing your hands, you can wipe them away. Whatever's in the future, allowing that to be in the future. Whatever is in the past, allowing that to be in the past. And really beginning to cultivate our present space here and now. Beginning to see this beautiful energy of light from our bodies emanating beyond us as we claim and reclaim our space, our sovereignty in this moment. Breathing in and allowing our presence to flutter from the mind past the throat into the heart space. And now guiding intentionally our breath into our heart, exhaling all around our heart, breathing into our heart space, and exhaling all around our heart space. As we begin to consciously activate the field around our heart, breathing into our heart and exhaling all around our heart space, opening up our senses, our awareness, the awareness of our body, the awareness of our surroundings, and allowing your breath to just begin to guide you. Letting yourself feel the inhale and hear the exhale. Breathing in. And in our next exhale, we're just going to exhale through our feet, connecting all the way down to the heart of Mama Earth. Feeling her welcome here today, where she and her energy embraces you and says, yay, thank you for playing with me today. Thank you for your connection, for your presence, for your love. And just allowing that energy from Mama Earth to begin to flow up, activating your feet, flowing into your legs, your knees, up into your hips, into your root, flowing all the way up into your inner organs, allowing for this beautiful nurturing energy, just that deep softness of you are okay, you are safe, and you are here now. I am here now. And allowing this energy to begin to flow up to the heart and breathing our awareness up through the heart, through the crown, all the way up to the heart of the sky. Connecting in with the sunlight, with the moonlight, with the cosmic wisdom, with the solar wisdom, and allowing all these beautiful light tendrils to begin to flow down, creating this beautiful light tapestry as it flows into your crown. The wisdom of yourself coming back to you in this moment. The wisdom of your own truth, of your own connection to your source. the activation of your true light coming into your crown, activating the light sensitive parts of your brain, flowing down into the nape of your neck. Maybe you feel called to bow your head gently forward to allow this light to reach the back spaces of your throat and neck, and then lifting your chin gently as this energy flows into your chest, into your shoulders, your hands, your arms, and all the way down into your heart. And feeling this connection to that sense of nobility, the sense of pride of being in this body, of being who you are, that soft humility and gentle gratitude. And from this space of openness, of love, just envisioning everybody who's listening to this call at this time, that we're in this bubble together. And we're beaming our love to every listener here and now. Seeing our love flow from our hearts to their hearts. And then beaming our love to all of the past listeners. Seeing their hearts fill with light and joy. And beaming our love to our future listeners. And seeing that we're actually all connected in this present moment. Feeling this energy growing and growing as we soften any parts of our mind that keep us from really hearing what we need to hear. And then just allowing this energy to clear away anything that keeps us from hearing what we need to hear to grow, to nourish ourselves, and to really be present in the way that we want to in our bodies. Because this conversation, I can already feel it's going to be filled with so much wisdom, so much guidance. Just allowing ourselves to open up to what we need to receive in this moment. And if you have your cup of cacao here with you today, we have the honor to have Gabrielle bless it for us, with us, as we bring our cups into our hands, and I pass it along to you.
Yes, bring your cups up to your heart space and close down your eyes. Dear Mama Cacao, Ish Cacao, spirit guides and guardians of this land, we ask you to help us connect with our heart space as we drink you. And gently bring your cacao up to your nose and smell how delicious she smells. And whisper your intentions into Mama Cacao. You can ask her for anything that you need, anything at all. Whether that's to feel love and softness, or to feel brave and inspired. Just whisper your intentions into her, and with every sip that you take while you're listening to this conversation, know that you are pouring that into your body. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Mama Cacao. Thank you. You can go ahead and drink your cacao.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
Cheers.
I have a very autumnal cup right here, and it smells and tastes so good. Some little maple and pumpkin pie spice and chaga.
Ooh, yes, a fall. Yeah. Fall blend. Yum.
Yeah. Well, welcome to our space, and I would love for you to just introduce yourself a little bit to our listeners, share about who you are and your journey, how you came to be working with cacao.
Yes, so my name is Gabrielle Martirana, and I am from Southern California, and I used to work in corporate America. That's kind of where my story starts. I was raised in like the traditional Western society, was working for this big company, and I stumbled across hearing about these wild children traveling around the world called digital nomads. And I Had never heard of such a thing before. And so that kind of began the second phase of my exploration and healing journey and spiritual awakening, or whatever you want to call it. But basically, the unraveling of self and like deeper self discovery. And while I was on this journey and I was living in different places around the world, I was living in Bali at the time, and I was in the process of looking at my relationship with money, with success, with my body, with emotions, with just my subconscious, like all these things, and trying to heal chronic pain that I was dealing with, anxiety, low libido, depression, like all these other side effects that I didn't understand why I was having. Because if you just looked at my life and just checked off the boxes, you would be like, wow, you actually have like done all the things, you know, that we were told to do. And so during this process, I realized that I was very numb. I was very disassociated from my body, from feeling. I was in that classic workaholic vibe, that boss babe vibe of grind and log the hours and very driven and all of that. But then I had all these other side effects that I didn't understand why they were there. So I went to a cacao circle on accident, actually. They said that they were going to have cacao, but I just thought that that was chocolate. And so I thought to myself, I won't have the chocolate. I don't like chocolate, but I'll go to the women's circle and see what that's about. And I go, and she starts talking about what cacao actually is. And so I thought, oh, okay, I'll try it. And we're kind of going deeper into the women's circle. And there was some singing and some journaling and different activities and stuff like that. And then at one point, I just had this big emotional release where all of a sudden I was feeling, I was crying, I was connecting with my mom, and all of these things started happening. And I was like, what is going on? Like, what is this stuff? And that essentially began my love affair with cacao. And from there, I started traveling the world to learn how to work with Mama Cacao deeper. And I went and studied with different shamans and mystics and curanderas in places like Mexico and the Dominican Republic and Guatemala and here in Bali and all over the place, just trying to understand this plant medicine, this magic that I had experienced. And then it wasn't until later when I was moving back to the United States that I decided that I wanted to bring some of this magic back to the United States. So that was the birth of cacao wisdom.
So beautiful. What a rich journey. And okay, so I'm curious, why Bali? Why'd you wind up there? You just moved back. And what is it about this place that keeps on calling you back to Bali?
Yeah, so Bali has this really transformative energy for me. I don't know if it has to do with how the Balinese celebrate duality. They really, really cherish and honor the light and the dark. And so there's a lot of opportunity for self-exploration in like both of those areas. I don't know if it's just that Mama Bali feels very safe, or she's also like a little bit confronting, where there's like something about the energy of being here that like a lot comes up. There's like a lot of opportunity to figure things out. I don't know. I don't know why I get called back here over and over again. I mean, I love it. It's a beautiful island, but there's different opportunities have presented themselves for us to move back here. And I've always just felt a really deep connection to this land and to the people and the modalities and things that I've been able to be exposed to and to learn, and the alternative ways of thinking. Yeah, it's kind of like a mix.
Interesting. Yeah, I've been hearing more and more about the Balinese culture and how spiritual they are, how it's really embedded in their life, their speak, their walk. And how was that for you coming from the States, growing up in the culture of Southern California?
There are parts of the Balinese culture that I really, really, really love, like daily parts. For example, I love their dedication to offerings, and I love their connection to reciprocity, like the flow of energy and the flow of giving and receiving. I think Balinese are very spiritual, and I think there's so much wisdom to be learned from the culture, from the traditions. I think it is very different from the culture that I grew up in Southern California. Um, I think that at least in my bubble that I grew up in, it wasn't very spiritual. It wasn't very religious at all, actually. It was
Mm.
just kind of like even keel, like kind of like middle zone. Um, yeah, I wasn't surrounded by that level of like dedication and like ritual and tradition that I really love and appreciate about the culture here. So I would say that they're quite different. It's quite exotic compared to how I was raised. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm curious to know about like seeing the juxtaposition of these two cultures, one that's like deeply embedded in like this is how we live and breathe offerings, we understand the interconnection of this, and the space
Yeah.
that actually not even like very Christian or Catholic or anything like that, how it's what like if you could be a fly on the wall in both of the settings, what do you notice or observe in how people treat each other and live their life?
There's like a deep rooted sense of peace here and happiness. It's palatable. People notice it who even come to Bali for the very first time, just how happy the local people are. And I feel like that is a huge contrast to the people in California. I feel like a lot of people don't feel that way. So that's really interesting, actually, just to kind of contemplate that. I feel like a lot of it too has to do with their deep connection with nature. The locals, they prioritize spending time outside and with the different elements, whether that be the ocean or the rivers or the jungle. They're also very connected to the sun and the moon and like the lunar calendar. And so I just feel they're just really tapped into Earth and her cycles. Where I feel that, I mean, this is a broad blanket statement, but a lot of people that I know in California, especially my family, are not so connected to that. In fact, there was one time I was talking to my dad and I asked him, when was the last time that your feet actually touched the earth? And he was thinking about it. And I was like, not the concrete, not the carpet in your house, like the earth. And he was literally like counting on his hands and he was like, I think like 7 months ago. And I was like,
At least it wasn't years though.
yeah. Yeah, and he was talking
Wow.
about like because he actually likes to go to this vacation spot in Arizona that's a river, like a desert and a river, and he finds it to be very peaceful and very calming for him. And I think it's because that's the time when he actually like touches the earth and connects with the earth. So it's kind of interesting.
As I was asking the question before, how people relate to each other, but maybe you can speak from your own experience of how it's really about how we relate to ourselves, right? So, of course, you can't be in all the people in both of those places. So maybe it's more about your self-reflection of like how you treated yourself in the spaces that were just more disconnected.
Yeah, definitely. I think just the values and the priorities are different. And so if I just look at myself purely of how I behaved living in like one culture versus how I behaved like living in a different culture, and I'm embodying those kind of like local values. Yeah, definitely. When I was living in California, I was very focused on like career oriented, spent a lot of my time trying to climb the corporate ladder, felt like very out of balance as far as how I would spend my time, the pressure I would put on myself, and things like that. Where I feel here, I actually have a very balanced life. I think Bali to me is all about balance. And it's so funny actually talking about cacao, the cacao from here, when you drink the cacao from Bali, you can literally feel that. You can feel the energy of it being very balanced. Yeah, and so I feel like that vibration like plays out in my life in that same way where my life is more balanced here as a result, which is cool.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I
Yeah.
think that's what a lot of people strive for these days. And I think it's really fascinating. What I contemplate a lot is the the relationship of, how much our culture imprints on us and the society we're around imprints on us, and then we just change environment, like, the studies on plants where it's the environment's that helping it grow, or is it actually
Yeah.
causing detriment to it. And the things that are just normal and accepted. Like my daughter goes to the Waldorf school, and since she's little, everybody's crocheting. They're being read a story. All the boys, they're like, can we take out our handwork and crochet? This is a very interesting and unique culture where it's older types of thinking, but that boys don't crochet, like that kind
Oh,
of a
yeah.
thing. In this environment of, oh no, well, I don't do that because it's girly in that sense. But these kids are growing up where it's just what we do. This is a part of what we do. This helps me when I want to fidget with something, let me create as well. And the instilling that within that culture of acceptance of like, no, that's normal. And then if you take anybody else and put them in a different one, you'd be like, why aren't you doing that? That's so weird. There's a lot that I play with too of how can I bring these values like of Bali into where I am right now and allow myself to be that here without actually, for a lot of people, it's really hard to uproot our lives and move and everything. So I'm curious about what your experience is with that and living in different places, how you find these environments shape the way that you blossom there, and any advice you'd have for some listeners that are going through something
Yeah.
similar.
Yeah, I love that. That's a really good point to make is that like as much as you can travel and experience other cultures, it's an inspiration and you can bring that and embody that anywhere on this planet. You don't have to live in Bali to be balanced. You don't have to live in Guatemala to feel that like fiery, zesty energy of the volcanoes and the people, you can embody that anywhere. And I think the beauty of the time that we live in, like how much we're able to share and experience through social media and through video and through podcasts, is that we can really paint color to these experiences to where people can experience them themselves without actually having to go there. And yeah, take those little pieces of wisdom and create what they feel inspired to create in their space. And yeah, I feel that that's what I do as well when I travel and when I come across a new way of thinking or a new way of living or a new ritual or something that I feel really called to, that I fall in love with. It's something that I want to make a part of my daily experience. Then I kind of like take that with me like a gift almost, like from that place. And I feel that I'm helping to keep it alive and help preserve that tradition and things too, by doing it myself and then by sharing it with others. So that way, because that's what culture is, right? It's kept alive by us actually doing the things in our daily life. Otherwise, it's just in a book somewhere in a library. Um, yeah, so I love passing that on. I think that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
I had this vision a couple weeks ago in a different conversation come to me of like, all the people traveling and stuff. And I'm like, oh, wait, it's like we become the pollinators of the earth, bringing different
Yeah.
cultures around. And it's like, yeah, I've also had this conversation with a few friends of mine where I grew up in Vienna, and we're talking about like the energy of the city just feels so different. And when more people come in, there's an influx of so many more people from different cultures, and also just the younger generation that don't really value the traditions of the past as much. So they kind of do their own thing, they rebel. And it changes the energy of the city. And sometimes it dilutes the values of what makes it very uniquely this place, and it becomes a little bit what we were talking about is like I've traveled to so many cities and they all kind of feel the same. Like it doesn't have that like this is what it is. And I'm curious for you, especially in Bali, there's like this it's a great influx of so many people now coming to move there. And what you've noticed, because you said you've lived there now 4 times, if there's any change in the energy of that space, or have they really been able to maintain the integrity of their culture there?
I think that the Balinese do an exceptional job of maintaining their culture And because they have so many ceremonies and it's such a deep part of their community and
Mm.
their daily practices, but then their weekly and their monthly, it's something so interwoven into their lives. It's not like some other cultures where it's kind of like maybe there's like three major holidays throughout the year and then that's kind of it type of thing. It's like, no, this is like a very, very integrated practice. And so I do feel like the magic of the energy they've created and the love and the devotion and the happiness is still very, very present. And I
Mm.
also feel that I don't know that many young Balinese, but the young Balinese that I do know and have spoken to feel a lot of pride in being Balinese. So I feel like that's very beautiful because they feel deeply connected to these traditions and this ancestry and maintaining these practices and things like that, which I think is really
Yeah.
beautiful.
That's really interesting. Yeah, bringing that aspect of, yeah, I'm proud to be where I'm from. Therefore, I carry
Yeah.
these traditions with so much love and joy forth for the next generations to be able to experience it. And a
Yeah.
lot of places that I have lived, there has not been like that much hometown pride, I'll say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, so it's interesting how that really affects the relationship to tradition and
Yeah.
ceremony. And I would love
Yeah.
to know the role that ceremony plays in your life and what ceremony actually means to you.
Mm, yeah. I love ceremony. I use ceremony in I
Me
do.
too.
I love it so
It's the
much.
best. It's the best.
Yeah, I use it in a lot of different ways. Because I've lived in a lot of different places, I think there are different lineages that I feel very connected to. I feel very connected to the Mayan lineage, very much. When I was there and I was studying with a Mayan shaman, I don't know why I feel like so connected to that one specifically. Um, so sometimes I will have Mayan fire ceremonies for myself. Sometimes I will do longer, deeper, more elaborate cacao ceremonies. Sometimes I'll do smaller ones. Really, I use ceremony as a way to clear space, to completely disconnect with all of the kind of like modern, mundane, almost distracting things that are part of our daily life and go back to the root. Go back to going within, go back to connecting with the earth, going back to feeling my true essence, like my own energy, and exploring, okay, what is it that I'm feeling? What is it that I'm needing? What is it that I'm thinking? And I use ceremony as a way to get into that state. And then the ceremony is stronger or deeper or shorter or longer depending on what it is that I feel that I need. And then I use different rituals and things that I've been taught from lots of different lineages, kind of as being my own medicine woman in that sense of whatever it is that I feel like I need to move through or release or cultivate or things like this.
I love the self-guided nature of practices like that because I do the same as well in the sense of, yeah, what do I need? What do I need that's in my toolbox that I've learned, and I can actually facilitate myself through this growth at this time.
Yeah.
And I think there's a deep power in personal ceremony and
Yes.
beginning the dialogue with self, especially with plant medicines, where we cultivate the space where there's actually space to listen. It's not like we drink it and then have a few minutes and, head on our way, but it's like, oh, I'm in conversation with the spirit of cacao or whatever plant medicine you're working with at that time, even if it's more gentle, like blue lotus, like what are we actually putting into our bodies? What spirit are we actually talking to? And creating the space for deep, deep listening. It's
Yes.
it gets very
So
juicy.
beautiful. Mm-hmm.
Not always easy. Actually, never really easy, but always fun. And I think that's so
Yeah.
fascinating for me about the challenges of facing, ourselves, working on the parts of ourselves that we don't necessarily want to look at or feel icky. But I used a mantra for many years of just please, with grace and ease, with grace and ease. And then I'd find myself in ceremony or different instances, and I was like, wow, this is the most painful thing I'm experiencing right now, but it's still so beautiful. And this is still like, it's felt like the easiest path. And you mentioned the part of shadow and light integration. And if you'd like to explore the role that that played for you and working with, healing yourself through the chronic pain and maybe your relationship to your numbness in the past and how that kind of played out in your life, if you'd like to speak to any of those parts.
Yeah, yeah, there's so much there. Oh my gosh.
Take your time. Take us on a
So
journey.
much. Yeah, so, where do I want to begin? I think that my personal journey was not even knowing what a shadow was or anything about that. And first diving into exploring all of this like suppressed sides of me. So suppressed emotions, suppressed memories, suppressed experiences. And that to me is what people talk about when they talk about the shadow. It's all the sides of us that we didn't want to look at, that we didn't want to see. And I went deep into all of that because when I kind of cracked it open, oh my gosh, there is so much there. And so I really focused on that for a few years. But I will say, I do think that there is beauty and it is a must to look at our shadows to create true healing. But I also will say that it can become addictive to continually be looking for another thing to fix or unearth or surface or heal. And so there, I got to a point where I felt like I was kind of just spiraling in this space of not really progressing and expanding, but continuing to hunt and search for like why. And it wasn't until I had some kind of really big realizations and aha moments to recognize that that's not really the purpose of my life either, is to just kind of like sit and dwell in the darkness, even though I love it and I feel like there's so much depth and there's so much feeling in there. And I don't know if that has to do with me being like a Scorpio moon or what, but I love the depth, right? Like I love it. But then I realized that I wasn't I wasn't embodying that other side of like expansion and growth and creation and kind of the other side of the spectrum. And so it was only when I realized that I could walk on my journey while letting life and my sacred desires and my intuition guide me on what kind of needs to be seen next, and not getting so stuck and trapped in the idea that I need to just keep digging to find everything before I do the thing, like whatever the thing is. It's like I need to heal more before I launch my business. I need to heal more before I have a baby. I need to heal more before, you know what I mean? Like in that kind of like loop. So that was really enlightening for me, is kind of recognizing that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to just stop there for a second and let that really sink in of like, yeah, life is giving us the opportunity to heal constantly. We don't need to keep on digging to find things to fix. Yeah, that's really powerful. And
Yeah.
I feel like I've been in that trap before too, where the cycle of training yourself to look for what's bad, what's negative.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I realized too is I would work a lot with wanting to find or cultivate good feeling emotions. So I'd sit in meditation, right? I want to feel joy. I want to feel joy. And then I'd sit there and I'm like, I'm not feeling joy. I'm like feeling everything but joy. But then the part for me was realizing, oh wait, okay, this is the path through. Joy is on the other side and you're asking to feel joy, but all this stuff's in the way of you feeling it. So you have to feel this and clear the path for you to actually access that thing. So it seems kind of counterintuitive because you're like, I think I'm doing it wrong because I'm wanting to cultivate joy and this is feeling everything but joy. And I found that sometimes integrating the light aspects have been the most challenging for me rather than integrating shadow. Like, I'm like, yeah, I suck at that thing. I'll take it. Like, let me look at all the places where I'm really, really bad and suck at things. And it's like, okay. But looking at the places where there is actual creative potential there, where there is love, there is joy, that part for me, I'm still not there. I'm like, no, I don't. I don't want to go there yet.
Yeah.
And you could speak to what it takes to integrate the light path and actually begin to start walking on it. Because you were saying even in your business, I don't have to be fully healed. I just have to start walking on it. And if you maybe want to speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I completely agree with you about needing to create space in order to connect with the other energies or the other feelings. That's been my experience as well, is that when I want to step into a place of like deep self-love or something like this, and I feel shame or I feel guilt instead, it's not like that you're doing it wrong or I'm doing it wrong, like you said. It's more like I need to move through and transmute that first to create space so that I can have the capacity, I have the spaciousness to then feel the love or feel like the loving connection with myself. Yeah, that's definitely been something that I've recognized. And I think that another piece of that is while I'm walking on this journey, like while I'm allowing myself to take steps towards my desires, I call them sacred desires because I feel that everybody has their own unique desires and we have them for a reason. And while we walk in the direction of those dreams, naturally what will come up is everything that's not in harmony with creating that. And so it's like our own roadmap, it's our own guidance system on what to kind of address next, because that's what could be so disorienting is when we keep digging. It's like we don't know what to work on first, and there's so much there, and it can be like very disorienting. And so when we're actually more on this trajectory of following our sacred desires, the opportunities start presenting themselves of like, oh, I'm feeling friction here, this is very uncomfortable, what? And then we have the opportunity to look at it, and then we can work on that, dissolve it, heal the wounding, like inner child work, whatever it is that we need to do to dissipate that and shift that part of our paradigm, of our belief system, of what's surfacing there. And then we keep walking and we keep walking and something else will emerge. And that's just the beauty of life, is that as we walk in those directions, it's kind of like self-facilitated, you know?
Yeah. I got a really strong image of her walking her path, and it's in the jungle, and there's a big, like all these branches and brush in the way, and like, okay, well, you have to figure out the way through, or you meet a jaguar, and it's like, all right, I'm facing this jaguar at this time, and then, okay, I face the jaguar, let's move on, and whatever arises on the path. And I think there's a common misconception around the right path is just clear and easy, and you just walk down it, and that's it. And I'm not sure if there's anything that you maybe feel about that or could share.
Yeah. I think that there's a misconception around challenge. I think that the people think that the right path has no challenge, but I think that life, like this human experience, has challenge because we have to do things that we've never done before. I think that what dictates whether or not that challenge is struggle and suffering and painful is actually our relationship with the process of learning. It's what is our relationship with being in the unknown? What is our relationship with doing things that we don't know how to do them? What is our relationship with making a mistake or doing something wrong? I think that's actually what creates the suffering and the struggle. It's not that the path needs to have no challenge, because challenge is what helps us expand our awareness, expand our creation. I think where people get confused is thinking that challenge has to be painful. And I don't think it needs to be painful. I don't think we need to suffer and struggle. I think that we can have this set of belief systems or this relationship with the idea of what growth actually feels like, and what meeting our edge actually feels like, and what walking in the dark when you can't fully see that next step feels like. And then it doesn't have to be so painful, yet it can still be challenging, you know?
Yeah. I love the imagery of that, of like knowing what that feels like. What does growth actually feel like? That is so powerful. What does that actually feel like to really grow? And I think that is that relationship to discomfort. Like, oh, no, back away. That can't be right. That doesn't feel good. And it's like, no, no, no. That's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to push you. Like, you need to expand out. And I'm reading this book called Mindset right now, and it's all about growth mindset versus fixed mindset, and the indicators of, and you can change your mindsets. And you have different mindsets relating to different subjects. So you may have a growth mindset in regards to relationships, but maybe a fixed mindset in regards to, your mathematical abilities. And what the findings are in the book is that, people with a fixed mindset, they were praised and said, oh, you're really good at this. And now they've created this identity, this ego. And if they ever make a mistake, then it actually shatters the illusion that they've kind of created for the world. So they stop trying. They'll be like, oh, I can do that already, or they won't put themselves out there. But people in a growth mindset actually are craving the feedback. They're craving the challenge. They're like, ooh, this is interesting. Yeah. But it's the relationship to, they didn't adopt an identity of that, of what they are already, but they're allowing that space and that flow to keep on becoming. And we've talked about a lot of healing and all this kind of stuff, and I'd love to bring it back to cacao and maybe how cacao has really helped you in your life with your healing and your journey, and sharing a little bit about that.
Yeah, I feel cacao and the spirit of cacao have been a huge, huge integral part of my healing journey. I feel that there were a lot of times when I was diving into that darkness and into that shadow and into all of those repressed emotions and experiences that I don't think I would have felt safe to go so deep on my own. But when I would sit with Mama Cacao, I heard this expression once that she's like a hug in a mug. And I felt that. Like I felt that strong, like grandmother energy, that mother energy, like holding me. And I felt like I was able to dive so much deeper into emotions that want to be felt, into thoughts that needed to be released, into just all this like scary, like thick places that like I didn't want to look at. I felt like I was able to do that when I would sit with cacao, and I felt like it was so much easier to do for some reason. And so that's something that I will be like eternally grateful for her, and I will always sit with her in so much like sacredness and respect, like because of those experiences. And I love being able to talk about it and share about it, because if there's anyone who is struggling to connect with themselves or to feel or to like kind of like crack open, to really go inside, to start moving things and working through things, Mama Cacao is amazing. Like so amazing. And yeah, and she really is a plant medicine. And so yeah, she's been absolutely huge on my journey. Yeah, no doubt.
Even so, that you have a cacao brand, if you'd like to share about that and how you came to actually be producing and sharing Balinese cacao and Guatemala. Yeah. And what that journey was for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, so my personal journey with cacao started in Bali, and then I went to Central America and was learning from different teachers in Central America and started tasting the cacao there, and I noticed how different they were, not just like in taste, but also energetically. And so a few years later, when I decided to move back to the United States, I wanted to bring this cacao with me. Honestly, the whole reason I started the business in the first place was how could I have my cacao for me in the United States? But then my friends were like, I want some. And I was like, you know what? Actually, I would really love to like bring more of this magic to my home country. Like, I feel like it's very needed. And I think that that would just be a beautiful offering. So I decided to bring cacao from Bali, from one of the farms that I work with in Bali, where I know the farmers and I know the processes and I know that it's all sacred and it's all organic with no pesticides and all the things. And same with Guatemala. When I was living in Guatemala studying with the shaman there, I went to the farms and saw the whole process. So I feel this is the cacao I want to drink. This is how I want to connect with the spirit and with the plant medicine. And yeah, so that's the cacao that I bring to the United States, and they're both so different. So the Balinese cacao, like I was saying about the Balinese culture, is all about balance. So it's not so invigorating, it's not so fiery like the Guatemala cacao. It's actually very soft and very subtle and very harmonizing. And so you can actually drink the Bali cacao before you go to sleep. And so you can drink the cacao and you can have lucid dreams or kind of like knowings or experiences in your dreams, which is really beautiful. While the Guatemala cacao, being that it's from Lake Atitlan, so surrounded by volcanoes, it is so much of the essence of the land and of the people of that area, which is very, yeah, like fiery, very alive, very, you could like literally feel that inside of the cacao. So they're two very different energies, and I love working with both of them. So that's why I offer both of them.
I've had the opportunity to try Balinese cacao before, and it is very, very unique. Like when I first tried it, it was nothing like I had ever tasted before or even felt. The energy was really just very, very, it felt like magical expanse. That's about the way that I like to describe it.
I love that.
Yeah. Okay. So something that I struggle with, too, is balancing the aspect of bringing the finances and the money into the sacred medicine. And I'm curious what your perspective is on this.
Yeah, so I see money as energy, and I make sure to work with farms where they decide the price, they pay the people who work on the farm well, and the people are happy and want to work there, and you could feel that. Like you walk onto the property and you know if people want to be working there or not. And so I love that I am funneling energy and support and money into these spaces and into supporting these specific farms with these specific people and the way that they're cultivating the trees and the way they're cultivating the cacao and the way they're honoring the practices of creating, harvesting, and making the cacao according to their own lineages. And so this is all things that I feel really good about supporting financially, supporting energetically, everything like that. And I like being the bridge that helps more people do that. Because the more and more that I talk about cacao in the United States, I talk about it all the time with people who've never heard of cacao, have no idea how beautiful this plant medicine is. The more that I could like be a messenger and share that, the better. And I think that the monetary exchange is a natural part of that process. Like we all need money to grow and create and flourish. So I see just beauty in the exchange of this is something I feel that we vote with our dollars, right? Like what we spend our money on is what we're spending our energy on. It's what we're exchanging. And the more that I exchange with something that I believe so deeply in is I find it to be so spectacular, so beautiful.
Yeah, I love the imagery of these people are happy to work here. They choose their own price and they decide and allowing that exchange of money to really support that. I'm curious too what you think from your background in corporate America, how that influenced your perception and relationship with money.
Yeah, I've had quite a journey with money actually. Yeah, I think that I had a very negative view of money for a long time. I thought that money was the root of all evil. I thought that people who were very wealthy were like bad or malicious. I feel like I thought that asking for money was kind of like dirty or like the exchange of money was dirty. I felt like money was elusive. It was something that I was always trying to find and like felt like I could never actually find. And I didn't understand like why some people had so much money and why some people have no money. And I feel, yeah, it was very confusing, and I feel like full of a lot of kind of like shame and guilt and things like this. And then I feel like my perception of money started to really shift when I became a business owner. And when I started to see the freedom that came with deciding how much that I wanted to charge for things, and that I had a choice, and that I wasn't like a victim to money or to my boss or to like corporate America, because I felt like that before. I felt like before, like my hands were tied and they got to decide everything. They got to decide my value. Like I even remember one boss telling me like I had to really fight to get you paid 50K a year. So like what I absorbed from that is like, not only are you not worth $50,000 a year, but I had to like fight to get you this, you know, so
Yeah.
you like owe me kind of thing. And yeah, and I felt like that was a very toxic, very negative way of connecting with money, because the truth is that money's fake. Like we invented
Yeah.
it as a human species, you know, like
Yep.
we use it to trade. It's an energetic exchange. And the more money we have, the more beauty that we can create. So my connection and perception to money has completely shifted to a being an amplifier. Money is simply an amplifier, and I get to choose what I amplify with my money. And the more money I have, the more I get to amplify. And so, yeah, I feel like that was a really big shift for me. And I feel like that also helped me kind of overcome, because before I kind of had this idea that if you're like spiritual, you can't be like using money or working with money because money's bad, and like how could you charge for spiritual things? But when I started to see that money is your own personal edge, like when someone invests money in something, they are basically saying like, I value this. And it's allowing somebody the opportunity to say like, I choose me and I value this. And that's how we've set up our society. I'm not saying like money has to be the only way that we express these things, but it is the way that we express them in the current dynamics of this world. Um, yeah, so that's kind of my relationship with money. And when I stepped into that, I was able to attract so much more wealth and abundance. And with that, I've been able to create so much more beauty. So, yeah, that's my connection.
It sounded like you were still struggling with your with money in corporate America, and that it was really the point of becoming your own business owner that felt you were like, wow, okay, this is really freeing and liberating because I'm sovereign. I dictate my life. And was it really just that switch that was there for you of clicking into your own power in that sense, or was there other work that you did around that to release the ties around like the aspect of like charging for spirituality and those kinds of things? Was it like
It
a
was
longer process?
Yeah, it was definitely a longer process. It wasn't like a light switch, like overnight thing. I think working for myself was kind of a dramatic shift, but then there was like so much more depth to be worked through. Because at first, like about the spirituality thing specifically, at first, like what felt good was charging money for really traditional things. So I actually started a marketing agency, and that was the first business that I owned. And so that felt fine because that's like normal, right? Like that's like standard to charge for that. But then
Yeah.
when it shifted more into this spiritual space of like, oh, but I want to hold women's circles. Oh, but I need to be able to pay for the cacao and the candles. Oh, but I want to make it really beautiful. I want flowers, and I want crystals, and I want, you know what I mean? And then I was like, shoot, like, is it okay for me to charge for that? Like, am I allowed to charge for that? And then what I realized is that the more that I charged for it, the more beautiful I was able to make it, and the more women who were attracted to attending my circles. And so I started to see this different relationship with money. Yeah, so it was an unraveling over time for sure.
I'm sitting with that. The aspect, it's an amplifier of what lives within us, right? I've heard that before too. If you have greed or scarcity within you, it's going to amplify that. If you have more of it, you're going to keep more. And if you have more to give, more gratitude, more love, you're going to share more and more. And I think disassociating that emotional relationship to the charging, or feeling like maybe like you're taking away. But I love how you
Yeah.
spun it, because it's like, oh wait, no, actually I'm able to give back so much more, and it's not that I'm taking from them. I'm actually transmuting it and alchemizing it into this beautiful space for deep transformation and healing. And it's actually giving back tenfold more now because I have the opportunity to fill that space. And playing with that, I'm taking versus this is enabling me to give. I think that's a really key point there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think to even take this a little bit deeper,
Yeah.
I
Please.
think that, yeah, I think that that's really interesting. I know exactly what you mean, this idea of feeling like we're taking from somebody. And I feel like it's because the way that we are raised is to think that we're in like a zero-sum game, meaning there's like this much pie and everybody only has access to this much pie. So if I take this much, that means that there's only this much left. Like it's literally like a finite amount. Where when I shifted to thinking about limitless supply and working with limitless potential, and that by me using something, using some resource, time, money, whatever it is that I'm using, that actually by me using it, I'm not taking from anyone because what I'm using is limitless. Which is that's a big jump right there, right? Because we've been told like Earth's resources are finite, like time is finite, like money is finite. Money doesn't just grow on trees. You know, there's like a million things I could say about how everything I just said is not true. But if you feel called to explore that concept, when I started exploring that concept, that was a huge shift for me. Because what I had been taught in like Econ 101 is supply and demand, like classic economics, right? Like the more scarce something is, the more valuable it is. Okay, what a huge limiting belief, right? It's like, okay, the more lack, really? Like, but when we look to nature, when we go back to like indigenous teachings, when we look at what the earth shows us, it's pure abundance. It's literally pure abundance, and it's everything that we could ever need is supplied for us. And if it's not, it grows. You know, it's like, also, the crazy thing about if you get a snake bite in this certain part of the jungle, the antidote for the snake bite is growing right where that snake lives. Like, you know, it's pure magic. And so when I look at the world through that lens, I feel like I can step away from that feeling of like by me occupying space, by me utilizing things is taking away from somebody. And I can step into this other space of like, we live in this dynamic, creative thing we call life. And it is literally limitless potential, limitless resources. And I'm not actually like taking from anyone. I'm just creating, and we're all creating. And that's the point, you know, it's a different energy, I think.
Okay. And it comes back to that fixed mindset versus that growth mindset. This is all malleable. We can create whatever we want, manipulate reality in the positive sense of like to create whatever we want, as opposed to this is what we got. And then we have to share the pie between everybody. Yeah.
And that's talking about corporate America. That's what I was taught in corporate America. We talk about market share, right? And market share is just this idea that there's this set amount of people in the market and we want a bigger piece of the pie. Like they literally say that in meetings. Like, you know, like that's so ingrained, this thought process.
Yeah. So we talked about ceremony. We talked about Cacao as a facilitator. I'm curious if there are any other aspects that really helped you through moving that numbness out of your body, what you were talking about, because it was that corporate America, all these beliefs, all this that's instilled, literally kind of brainwashed into this belief system, and especially around the society of like, this is where I'm growing, this is my environment that I'm growing in. You mentioned that you had depression, that there was numbness, that how you moved through that and where you stand with that right now.
Yeah, it was through a lot of emotional releasing. I think was the biggest thing that helped me shift out of numbness into feeling. Because when I shut off feeling, it wasn't that I just only shut off the bad things. I shut off feeling completely. Unfortunately, we don't get to like just decide only going to shut off the things I don't want to feel. No, like I shut off all the feeling. And so in order to release that, to process that, because the emotions were trapped in my physical body. which is what was causing the chronic pain. So like the pressure and the stress was like trapped in my neck, and it was causing hypertension in my neck so badly that it would actually pull my bones out of alignment and cause severe nerve pain in my back and in my arms. Yeah, and then I had like sadness and shame and all sorts of emotions that I had suppressed in my body. And it was only through releasing them, like physically learning how to release them. But there's so many like blocks there, right? Like we have an amazing mind, and it protects us. And it was learning how to open up that mind, those protections, and how to trust and feel safe enough to go within to let it out. Like if I was going to boil it down, that's what it boils down to. Now, it took me working with several healers and several years to do that. It wasn't just like, okay, go feel your feelings. Thanks, bye. Like, yeah, it was a slow process. It was like a process where I had to be very like patient and dedicated and find support and have this open mind that you've been talking about of there are other ways to heal than what I had been taught, which was all just Western medicine and take a antidepressant pill and, all the things I had done before that didn't work. They just masked the symptoms and made me more numb. And it was like, yeah, like walking through this path in the dark. I mean, I had no idea if it was going to work. I had no idea where I was going. It was very scary. But I felt that it was right, and I just followed the little nudges along the way. And the teachers presented themselves as I needed them. It was very like synchronistic like that. They would just show up, and I would say yes. I mean, I think that's a really important part is I would say yes, and I would do it. Yeah.
Oh, that's really beautiful. You hear all the time when the student is ready, the master appears or the teacher appears. And yeah, the saying yes to it, saying yes to choosing you, choosing your life, choosing your voice, choosing presence. I had a conversation a while back with someone who brought this concept in the plant medicine is here, but you have to meet it halfway. It's not going to do all the work for you. That always stuck with me. Well, how am I showing up to that? And it's the same thing in life and healing. How am I showing up to meet myself? And am I saying yes to that? So I love that the aspect of, I said yes. Yeah. And I kept on saying yes. The journey that you went on, you said that there was different shamans and priestesses. And I'm curious about your teachers, if you want to share about some of your teachers.
Yeah. I worked with many. I would say some of the most impactful, I worked with a woman who specializes in like the womb and connecting with your like divine feminine and a lot of healing around the feminine and around receiving and around feeling safe to kind of step out of that very kind of controlling masculine energy that I feel like I was taught of what success is and how a business owner runs her business, and like this very like kind of like hard facade that I was walking around in that felt very safe. How to move out of that into this area of softness and to feel and connect with my body and connect with like pleasures, but not just like intimate pleasures. I mean, like pleasures as simple as having time for rest, or sitting with a delicious cup of mama cacao, or having nothing to do in your day and then deciding you wanted to go swim in the ocean. Like these pleasures of life that I was completely disconnected from and denying myself. So I did a lot of work with her, a lot of work around that. Another woman that I worked with, she taught me a lot about self-love and about ceremony and ritual and using music and using sound, and how sound, like the vibration of sound, can shift your state. And then the Mayan shaman that I worked with in Guatemala, he taught me all about the Mayan cosmovision and the Nawales, which are the energies of the human, basically in the Mayan calendar. And Yeah, that was spectacular. I felt so connected to the energy of the lake and to the surrounding animals, and I could like feel these archetypal energies that they talk about and these nahuales. Um, and also elemental wisdom. I think that's been one of the most beautiful, consistent, interweaving concepts through all the lineages that I've studied with across the world, is this like deep connection to water, to earth, to air, to fire, and how to use those to help transmute, to help release, to help change. Yeah. It's been amazing.
Yeah, that sounds like an amazing journey. And just the weaving of the basic foundations of our existence on this planet Earth. I feel like so often we disassociate from the fact that we are on a rock in space.
Yeah.
We're floating. And there are these
Right.
crazy elements here that have been here way longer than we have. And still, it's just like, oh no, I'm going to drive my car to work. Well, just contemplate every day for a second, just like, oh wow, I'm sitting here connected to water. Water is flowing through my body right now.
Yeah.
There's this element called fire. Like,
Yeah.
it's
So
pretty fun
true.
to
It's
explore.
so true.
Yeah. And the aspect of the divine feminine, which I love that you brought in, because I've done a lot of work with the divine feminine and different mystery schools. Where are you now in your journey with integrating both the masculine and the feminine? Because I know for me, you come in a very masculine based society, and then sometimes I spiral out into the feminine and I'm like, all right, I need a little bit of structure. Like I actually need to bring in and harness that masculine energy to create in the way that I actually want to. And where are you in balancing those sides and in your journey right now?
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good question. My journey was exactly how you described, of being very in the toxic masculine for a long time and almost having like PTSD from being in that energy, like wanting to get so far away from it and have absolutely nothing to do with it, that I feel like I swung super far into the feminine, into an unhealthy like level of this feminine energy. And then it took me a while to kind of recognize that. And then I found this middle ground. And basically, the consensus that I've come to is that what's the most beautiful practice for me, and what self mastery for me looks like, is the ability to toggle between both my internal divine feminine and divine masculine energies when I need them. It's not embodying one over the other. It's recognizing that I need both to like flourish as a human on this planet, and that I have the ability and the power to toggle between them when necessary and find this dance of what is serving me and what's not serving me. Because when I kind of first went from being in that toxic masculine to going more into the feminine, I kind of like villainized the masculine. I just painted it in this really negative picture, thinking that I didn't want anything to do with it. But now I recognize that in order to create, to expand, to grow, we need the creativity and the chaos and everything that comes along with being feminine, but we need the structure of the masculine to hold it and to support it and to have the vision, the direction. And so when I work with both of those energies, it's been spectacular. When I first built my first couple of businesses, it was in that toxic masculine, and I hit decent levels of wealth there. I was doing well, but I had all the symptoms I told you about. Now, when I've created these businesses in this balanced state, toggling between the two, I've greatly surpassed what I was able to create before. And then from this place of truly feeling like I'm enjoying the process and I'm enjoying life and I'm present and I feel, and like all of the pleasures and the experiences and the things that come along with that journey, and just even monetarily the difference between the two is amazing. Like it's so beautiful. Yeah, so that's been my journey with the two energies, and as far as kind of like work and creation and things go.
I love that. And I love that the result of that is when you work in harmony and you listen to both sides, you flourish and grow exponentially.
Yes, for
And because
sure.
it's still, the other aspect is you're missing a component to actually or the fertilizer or the whatever it is that's going to make you grow. It doesn't work. It doesn't work alone. we need,
Yeah,
we
it's true.
need all aspects. And I'm
Hmm.
curious if you have any other language as well, because I know the divine feminine and masculine, it appeals to some people. And sometimes I struggle with it too, because I can really relate. And I see that as a masculine trait or structure or energy, and I see this one as feminine. But sometimes this doesn't feel resonant either, because masculine feminine is also made up in the physical form. When we go beyond it, it's simply energy. So I'm curious if you've explored that, and you might have some other vocabulary for me and our listeners.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like saying masculine and feminine is very confusing because it makes it seem like it's related to gender or sexual preference or something that it's not related to whatsoever. And that even when I was first learning about it, I felt like, like I'm in my masculine? Like I can't do that. Like I need to be a woman, kind of thing. So I actually prefer to use the words yin and yang energy because I feel like there's no emotional charge around that related to like being a good enough woman or a good enough man or yeah, like any sort of gender issues or what you like self-identify as, like, because none of that has to do with any of this. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But I feel
Yeah.
like it could get confusing
Yeah.
with those other words. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hmm.
I love
Hmm.
that. The simplicity, the yin yang. Everybody knows that
Yeah.
symbol and what it represents is like that the feminine essence and the masculine and the darkness and the light. It has all that
Yeah.
depth within it too. Very fun. I'm curious about your Mayan Nawal.
Yeah. I'm emosh.
Yes, I that makes sense.
Yeah.
I can
It
feel
makes
that.
sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. How
am
about you? Do you know? Do you know
yeah,
you?
Akavai.
Oh,
Mhm.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I studied with a few teachers of the Mayan cosmology, and that was one that just connected at a soul frequency. I don't know what it is, but
Yeah.
this makes sense. And following the Mayan calendar for me, the Turkish was like, wow, okay. Like life makes so much more sense, and it's easier for me to know myself within this structure.
Oh, I
And
love that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's really fun to explore. And I'm sure if I'm wondering if you'd like to share any part of that. Because I think we're just trying to understand ourselves, understand our place on this planet,
Mm-hmm.
how we can relate best and find happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And the tools that give us the opportunity to do that, let's use them, let's implement them in a healthy and respectful way. And
Yeah.
how the Mayan calendar and the Mayan lineage really has influenced your life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. When I was studying with the Mayan shaman, he was basically teaching us how to channel the Nahuales. So it was a very intense experience, very beautiful experience. But like you, I felt like instant resonance to it. I actually had some really wild connections with some of the animals while I was there, while I was studying.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like something that came through to me was the connection to colibri, like to the hummingbird, and to the idea of allowing ourselves to enjoy life and like drink the nectar of life and things like that. And so I was really like contemplating that because I felt like that was something that I just did not do. Like I did not allow myself to just have pleasurable experiences. I felt like I always had it was an ends to a mean. Like there was a purpose to everything. And so one day I was kind of contemplating that energy of the hummingbird, and out of nowhere, this hummingbird flies into my bedroom window and like literally sits on the side of my bed. And I was like, never in my life have I seen a
Oh my
hummingbird behave
gosh.
that way. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm connecting to Colibri. Like, it was so beautiful. I felt like so seen and so
Yeah.
supported in that moment. Um, And I had a similar experience with connecting to the energy of the jaguar. I didn't see a jaguar. It wasn't like that. It was just kind of connecting to that, like to the depths, almost like that same kind of like Scorpio energy of like the moon energy, or the deep waters, like emotion, like the
Mhm.
deep waters of our emotions, and allowing ourselves to sink into that darkness and know that we're safe, because we are that powerful, that beautiful, and that is a part of who we are, just as much as the light is a part of who we are. um, yeah, so I had some very, very deep, very profound experiences working with the Nahuales. It's not something that I actively use in my everyday practices and rituals, but I do call upon them when I feel like I want to. Like I call
Mhm.
upon like tihash and work with obsidian and things like this. But
Mhm.
it's more kind of pieced together like that. It's not so much a like interwoven into my daily practices personally.
Those animal journeys are amazing.
Yeah.
Where the connection there, that's it's so beautiful when we get that concrete reflection from the universe.
Yeah.
Like, okay, wow, it's here. This is real. The direct experience of channeling those energies, practicing the direct relationship with that energy is the most potent form of developing any relationship. And the clearest understandings that I've received from the Nawales or any energy has been me sitting in direct. Okay, what do you want to show to me? Who are you? Talk to me. And having that conversation there and being like, whoa, you blew my mind. This is insane.
Yeah.
I remember one journey where I had, and it was the energy of Noch and seeing the evolution, how Noch becomes Khan, and it was the fabric of the universe of all these tendrils, and Noch was the weave of the netting of the consciousness. Then Khan was picking specific tendrils and weaving them together, and it became this really powerful cylindrical force that activated the Kundalini. I'm like, whoa, I'm like
Oh
seeing
my
how the universe is
gosh.
working. And that was only with cacao.
Wow. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow,
Yeah.
I love that.
And
Wow.
yeah, and it's fun how far you can go with this plant medicine, also,
Hmm.
and in yourself and these energies. It's the same with crystals as well. When I was a kid, I used to read so much about them, but as a teenager, I would just sit with them and have the energy. Okay, this is what you want to be used for. Go into our toolbox. Tihash is here. Let me use the energy that is supporting the universe and give my thanks.
I love that.
If you were to share anything about cacao or what you would like somebody to know about cacao.
I think the biggest thing that I would like somebody to know about Cacao is that she is available to hold and support you through any experience that you may be going through. And no matter how hard or deep or beautiful and joyful, like she's such a support system. She's such like a loving energy, and I feel like that's the biggest thing I want to know. I want people to know. Like, I know that she's a superfood and she's so good for you and she tastes amazing and like all this, like that's all like kind of the icing on the cake. But like the core essence is how much she's able to really support. And I would love for people to really to know that she's available for that.
That's really needed at this time of what you were talking about, the transitions and the healings that you were going through. It was, I needed to feel safe first, right? And I know that for me too, is like I needed to know that I was safe enough to heal, to use the energy that is around me to be able to begin to regenerate. And yeah, she's here as this little hug in the mug or a big hug in a
Yeah,
mug. And
exactly.
it might be actually the same, maybe a similar answer, but a different phrasing of the question is, what do you feel like her mission is at this time?
Mm,
We see this explosion of cacao everywhere. I mean, chocolate's been a part of our culture forever, but what do
yeah.
you feel that Mama Cacao's mission is on Earth right now?
Yes. I don't know if you've heard the legend of Ish Cacao. Have you heard?
share it with
You want me
us.
to
I would
share?
love to hear it.
Yeah. So basically, it's the legend of Cacao is that she will walk out of the jungle and re-present herself to humanity when we are our most disconnected from ourselves and from the earth. And that it is what I believe is her mission. I believe that humanity is very disconnected from ourselves and from our planet, and that she is there to facilitate that reconnection to our heart wisdom and that reconnection to this earth. And yeah, I think that's what she's doing.
Mm. Oh, I love that. Yeah. And I think you can feel it too, little by little. And I'm curious about how you came to the name Cacao Wisdom.
Yeah, it was kind of spontaneous. I was just thinking about it and I don't know, I feel like I heard it or something, or it came to me in my thoughts and I was like, ooh, that's it. And it was actually really easy to choose the name. It was really easy. It was like, oh, that's it, done.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And one of the questions I recently started asking is, let me find it again. What is your favorite thing about being on Earth or being
Ooh.
in a human body?
I think my favorite thing about being on Earth is seeing and experiencing the beauty. Like I think that the Earth is just so beautiful, and my favorite thing to do is to travel around and like witness her beauty. I think that's honestly one of my favorite things, and I think that's why I like travel so much. Is I love to just see the earth and the people. I mean, the things that people build and create, and the rituals and the ceremonies, especially, I just think are like they're so awe-inspiring. That's my favorite thing. Is just experiencing what's here. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah, she's so beautiful.
so
All these
beautiful.
luscious lands and
Yeah.
beautiful lakes and volcanoes. So beautiful.
Mhm.
Well, I thank you so much for taking this time here. If there's anything else you'd like to share with our listeners, reach out to Gabrielle, get some cacao wisdom,
Yay.
cacao from Bali or Guatemala, and try it for yourself. But please feel free to use this opportunity to share whatever else you'd like to.
Yeah, I think that's it. That's beautiful. If anyone wants to connect on Instagram, I'm cacao.wisdom on Instagram. But other than that, I think our conversation has been so beautiful. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And part of our tradition that we have is I ask our guest to share a blessing for the next guest. It was from our previous guest, and she tuned in and she said,
I feel like what's coming up for me is just extending the gratitude to this next person for their time and for their unique earth walk, for saying yes to their yeses along the path, and for all the things that lit them up. And thank you for playing such a beautiful role in this web of life that we're all part of, this weaving. Thank you for doing your part, and to trust yourself and trust your mission, and to know that you have everything you need to thrive. That's what's coming through.
Oh, so beautiful. Thank you.
and I love that she said, we were talking about your yeses and you kept on saying yes. And she's like, yeah,
Yeah,
yes to your
that
yeses.
was crazy. I love that. Yeah.
Really amazing.
Thank you.
And if you would like to share a blessing for our next guest, and it could be now or you can send it to me later, whatever you feel more called to do.
I think that I would like to send it to you later because I would like to kind of sit and feel and write it out. Yeah, if that's okay.
Sounds good. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I look forward to receiving it. And then our listeners will hear it with our guests.
Yeah, nice little surprise.
Well, thank you so much, Gabrielle, for your time. Thank you for beaming in from Bali today, connecting in throughout all the world and the internet and the ethernets. And yes, this has been a really beautiful time together.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I really, really enjoyed it. Thank you. Thank you.
Me too. Oh, all right. I feel all charged up. I feel very, very good. Yeah. So I think I need a little stretch. And as we close up our space, closing up our time together, I love to bring one hand to my heart, one hand to my belly or my womb space, and just feeling that connection to the body again. Feeling the connection to the breath where we began this call. And feeling all the words that were spoken, all of the energies that were activated with our presence, all of the seeds that were planted, maybe tended to, and all of the nuggets of wisdom that our soul needed from this time. Feeling that we did go on a deep, deep journey, and allowing ourselves to integrate with grace and ease. And from the space of heart connection, we give thanks to the heart of the earth. We give thanks to the heart of the sky. We give thanks to the heart of the waters, and we give thanks to the heart of the fire. We give thanks to the heart of ether, and we give thanks to the heart of the void. We give thanks to the four directions that hold us in every moment, to the north, the south, the east, and the west. And we give thanks to the guardians and protectors that guide us along our path, that are with us in every moment, our ancestors, past, present, and future. And we give thanks to the heart of Mama Cacao. And I give thanks to all of the listeners here. And I give thanks to you, Gabrielle. Thank you so much for this time together here. And I love to end with, it is done, it is done, it is done, and it is fun, it is fun, it is fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Aho.